The EFL Championship is notoriously one of the hardest leagues to predict at the beginning of each season, with 2 teams missing the playoffs by 2 points last year and 4 teams missing relegation by 2 or less points. It is a whirlwind every single season. You never know what's going to happen on each day. The top team can lose to the bottom team. A team in the relegation zone can beat a team in the playoffs at any given moment. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, that is the reason that people love it. That is the reason that I've fallen in love with the league. So today, I'm going to make myself look super silly in 12 months from now.
It can't go on like this, can it?
It can.
And I'm going to rank the table from bottom to top based on my analysis this offseason. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jonah Fat Guy. I make EFL Championship, Premier League, and general football content. If you are a fan of any of those, hit the subscription button. Also, comment down below if you agree or disagree with my predictions, because I'm sure everyone will agree. Either way, get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Also, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Now, let's get into this, and it is going to be absolute carnage, and I'm horrified. Unless you've been living under a rock like Patrick Starr for the last 3 months, you know who's going to be at the bottom of the table. It is the Sheffield Wednesday Owls. It's never fun to see a team in a scenario like this, but the proof is in the pudding. They have less than 10 senior players left remaining. Their owner does not want to sell, despite efforts from a third party to navigate a business deal. He is asking more than what clubs are willing to pay. Players have not been paid their wages for going on 3 months now, so in the next 2 weeks, we could see even more players hand in their official notices to depart the club. The one positive that has come from all of this is that Barry Bannon did re-sign their captain, so respect to him. You really just hope that they make it through the season as a club and they're able to play all 46 games and not have to forfeit any due to lack of players. They recently lost Danny Roll in the past week. Wolfsburg were willing to pay £1 million, but Chansiri wanted the $5 million that is in his contract to be released, so that fell through. He ended up leaving on a free. Really just nothing positive. Even one of their stands is shut down to start the season, so let's just leave it there. Sheffield Wednesday to finish 24th and head down to League One. In 23rd, I have Oxford United. Now, if we go and take a look at a couple metrics from last season, you can see Oxford United last season had the second lowest XG, only in front of Plymouth, who obviously we know were relegated. I think that they're going to have a tough time scoring goals. It's obviously well known that they were a defensive-heavy team last season, so they did go into the transfer market and try to strengthen that area. They brought in youngster Brody Spencer, who played a ton of games in League One last year. They also brought in a few other center backs. Their big signing was Brian de Keersmaker. He is a DM. Hopefully he can stabilize the back line for them, but I just don't think that they have enough of an attacking prowess to capitalize on the few chances that they get. If we go back and we look at some more metrics from last season, they held 43% possession on average in their games. We know they're going to be setting up with a low block, and then if you go to their shots on target per match, they're sitting at 22 at 3.3. I just can't see a world where they are unable to pull enough points together to escape. They did bring in Fulham midfielder Luke Harris on loan this season. He has some League One experience, so maybe he'll be a difference maker, but again, I just don't think overall it's going to be enough for them to escape for a second year in a row. The final team I have to be relegated this season is Charlton Athletic, the team that came up via playoffs from League One last season. I think this one is probably going to go as a little bit of a less popular opinion, as they've done some really good business in the transfer market, but there's a reason that they had to. It's because at baseline, their squad is not good enough for the championship. So let's just look through a couple of the players that they brought in. First one, Charlie Kellman. He is a League One proven striker. He hasn't had much success at the championship level. You know, you obviously would hope that he's able to prove himself this season. He had 11 appearances, no goals for QPR before he was sold and sent out on loan. And then you have a couple Luton players that were poached from the squad and brought in. So Thomas Kaminsky, that's probably their best signing of the entire window. You definitely want an experienced keeper. They brought in Amari Bell, he's not on here as well. Center back, they brought in a couple other defenders. I just think that it's important to know that there's levels to this. Obviously, we've got Birmingham City and Wrexham coming up. They're just complete anomalies, but I think they're going to have a tough time adjusting, and maybe by the time that they do adjust, it's too late, and I think they're just going to miss out as the final team to be relegated and the closest to safety, Charlton Athletic. Now, my first club to escape relegation this season is Hull City, similar to how they did last season on the final day. Now, I'll be honest with you, this one was a last-minute swap for me. I had a discussion with a Hull City fan, that'll be out on my channel later this week, and he convinced me that maybe there's a little bit too much outside noise from their Turkish owner, whose name I'm not going to even try to pronounce. Overall, they have decent quality within the club. They also have players returning from injury who will act as new signings. So you've got Mohamed Baloumi, who missed most of last season with an ACL tear, and then you also have Liam Miller over on the other side. So 11 and 12 matches played for these two lads last season. Not to say that they're, genuinely proven players, but Liam Miller did have a decent spell at Preston North End, and they'll just inject some positive enthusiasm into the team. Another recurring topic that my friend kept pounding on was their goalkeeper. He believes that he is a very underrated, one of the better keepers in the league, and that is Ivor Pander. Despite only keeping 7 clean sheets last season, he was ranting and raving about him, and you know what? Maybe I'm falling for that. They do have some significant outgoings. They lost Alfie Jones, a center back, and Sean McLaughlin, 2 teams within the league, so they may find themselves having a difficult time at the back. However, they have brought in a couple defenders, and on top of that, if Pander is as good as the whole City fan that I've spoken to says, then they may be okay and just slightly edge Charlton to stay up for another season. In at number 20, we have Preston North End. I don't think that anyone is too surprised by this. Definitely a squad that needs a bit of a revamp. They haven't done too much business this summer. They did bring in Daniel Jebison, which will be a big plus for them. They did bring in Thierry Small. Those are probably the 2 highlights of their window, but they did lose Emile Rees, who was one of their top scorers last season, bagging 12 goals. As we know, they lost Keane Kessler-Hayden. His loan spell ended. He returned to Villa, and then he transferred to Coventry City. Definitely a few positions that absolutely need to be filled, and I think that they are better than the teams that are going down, but I don't think that they will do too much this year, and I don't think they will make much of a splash in the championship. And then one final point, you bring in Michael Smith alongside Daniel Jebison to try to replace Emile Rees' goals. Last season, he bagged 8, assisted 4. Pretty commendable, but he is a very cyclical player, so you don't know, and you question if he can capitalize on the small amount of chances that they will have as a club. And now, in 20th place, I have Wrexham. Here's the reason why I think, and I know it's a bit rough, but what the hell happened? Alright, camera's off. Let's get up that chat GPT. If I could type beautiful. Here we go now. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Anyways, let's hop back into it. The team I have to finish in 8th place this season is Millwall. Millwall. The team of mediocrity. A team that has gotten no higher than 8th place, and other than one outlier year, no lower than 13th in the last few seasons. They've solidified and they've stabilized within the championship, but I think that this season, they will finish in 8th again. And truly, this isn't a knock on the club because they've definitely strengthened. They've definitely made some really good signings. They just brought in Alfie Doughty from Luton, which is an unbelievable signing, right at the buzzer, by the way, a couple days before the League One season kicked off. But I think that they really are starting to get a nice little squad. Their striker, who I'm very excited for this season, Mihailo Ivanovic. He is an absolute beast. He's super young. Many shouts for him to win Golden Boot on my video of looking at the championship's top scoring predictions from bookies. If you haven't seen that, go look at it. Last season, he had 12 goals. He had a crazy back half of the season goal to game ratio. So he was definitely started hitting his stride at the end of the year. And then the big question this offseason was, would there be enough service for him to get on the goal sheet, enough for them to go out and win football matches? And I think that the business that they've done makes it possible. And you obviously can't go without mentioning that Josh Coburn transferred from Middlesbrough as well. So those two can definitely work on forming a really strong partnership. So really, I just look at them as one of those clubs that didn't need to add too much. And then they went out and they picked up 2, maybe 3 essential pieces. And yeah, they can probably repeat their form from last season. It's going to be tough to sneak into that playoff. There's a bunch of good teams this year. But yeah, Millwall 8. In 7th, just missing out on the playoffs by a small margin, I have Norwich City. Now, I've talked about Norwich City a lot this season, not as a club, but more individual players. We know, obviously, Joshua Sargent is leaning towards staying, the American striker. Borja Sainz has gone to Porto, but they have replaced him. They also brought in Matthias Kvistgarten, the Danish striker, who I'm really keen of, and I think is going to have a good season. So, Norwich City. Out of their 3 years of parachute payments, 2 of them were considered a failure. One of them they did end up making it into the playoffs, but no further than that. So they are looking to rebound this season and definitely try to get into the playoffs, if not at least single-digit finish. And I definitely think that's possible this year. I just think that the rest of the league is a little bit too strong for them to sneak into the playoffs. Maybe I'm wrong, but they brought in a new manager. They brought in Liam Manning, who has a decent track record in the championship. You can see that they've splashed the cash a little bit. So 5 mil, 8 mil, 2.5 mil, 2 mil. But I think they've done a good job this offseason. Obviously, we know that they lost one of their top scorers, Borja Sainz, but they did really good business for him. They got some money back, even with his last year of the contract. At the back, they were always more weak, but they brought in Harry Darling, who's an established championship center back. I think he'll definitely provide some calmness and experience, even at the age of 25. Like, he's got, what, 100 appearances in the championship, so that'll be really beneficial to the club. And then you hope to see second-year players who maybe were a bit disappointing last year take steps up, like Ante Chernak. And the number one factor and the most variable thing that I think will make or break their season is, first off, if this man stays, which I think he will, does stay, can he stay healthy? Josh Sargent was on a crazy goal-to-game ratio before his injury last season, and then he was just never really the same when he came back. He ended up with 15 goals and 32 appearances, which is still really good, but people argue that he's one of the best strikers, if not the best in the championship. So if he can be at his best, I think that their club will be at the best and see them just narrowly missing out. Okay. Now, for playoffs. As you can see, I have Birmingham City finishing in 6th. This is definitely a lot lower than where most people have them, but let me talk through it. The consistent Kings, as we can see, what is that? 10 plus years in the championship. Until last season, they go down, they go out, and they get 111 points, and they absolutely boss up League One and jump right back up. And on top of that, many are saying that they're going to go right up again this year. I think they make it to the playoffs. Their manager has not been established in the championship, so he's going to have to change his play style up a little bit. There's no way you can hold 70% possession in every game this season. Ipswich will be a big test on Friday. I'm sure against, the bottom half of the table, they'll get their way with them and they'll do very well. On top of that, they've brought in a ridiculous amount of players, and it seems like they just don't stop. I mean, even just this morning, they were linked with Chuba Akpom. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation, but let's just look at who they brought in. They brought in Cashin. He is a championship proven center back. He has a ton of appearances in the championship. They brought in Kyogo Furuhashi, who everyone's ranting and raving about. After a failed spell in Ligue 1, he is coming back and he is looking to rejuvenate his career after a poor 6 months. Damari Gray, returning from Saudi. We'll see about him. Brightside Samuel Fernabache played under Jose Mourinho. He used to be a winger. He's now more of a defensive back, so he'll be a player that can push up and provide attacking prowess. Oh, the list just goes on. Tommy Doyle, 50 matches in the Premier League. James Beadle, who you wonder if he's going to be the starter or not. We'll see going into the season. Even at the beginning of the window, Phil Newman. They already have Jay Stansfield. They already have a ton of established players. Their captain, Chris Clark, big tall dude. We'll see if he can make the step up to the championship. I know people are saying maybe his pace might be an issue, but only time can tell. And clearly, if a team is getting promoted and they're making it into the top 6, I think that things will work out for them. I have them a little lower than most people just because I just feel like it's not just going to instantly click for them, but nevertheless, still the playoffs, still have a chance to get promoted this year, and then Tom Brady can laugh his way to the bank. In 5th place, I have Sheffield United. Again, a bit lower than everyone else, but let me explain why. First off, they have Ruben Sellers. They have a new manager. He previously was a manager in the championship, but the philosophy has tended to shift around in there. They're using some AI models to bring in players, so the transfer window has definitely been a bit interesting for them, but to be completely honest with you, their squad is good enough to make the playoff again where they're at. Let's just look through and just highlight a few players. Michael Cooper had a really good season last year. He's one of the best keepers in the championship, no question about it. Then you've got Gustavo Hamer, who was rumored to be heading back to his hometown, the Netherlands, for a bit, but that seems to have stalled. So it looks like he's going to be suiting up for Sheffield this season. Sheffield United, excuse me. Whether he'll play in the center or on the wing, we shall see. Then they've got guys like Callum O'Hare, and then up top, they've got some scary players. They've got Tyrese Campbell, who is one of the people who I think could go out and win the Golden Boot this year. I mean, they're established here. They have some parachute payments left, albeit it's not their first year, so they have a little bit less. But still, the money's coming in, the money's coming out. Even behind Campbell, you've got Thomas Cannon, who hasn't shown his best for Sheffield yet, but he didn't have a full season. So you figure if anything were to happen to Campbell, or they adapt to some sort of scenario where they can both coexist, he could be an impact player as well off the bench or in the starting 11. So I think that is where Sheffield United are going to end up. In 4th, with absolutely no bias whatsoever, we have Coventry City. Coventry City have consolidated in the top half of the championship the last couple seasons. They have been improving each year. Obviously, just falling short in 2 of their playoff appearances. But this squad is seriously complete already. On top of that, they made some really good additions. They stole Kane Kessler-Hayden on a transfer from Aston Villa this summer. He has looked like a real impact player. At one point, Milan Van Ewijk was looking like he was going to be on the way out, so then he was going to slot right in. Those have kind of stalled, so it looks like we might be going into the season with 2 right backs. He did pick up a knock yesterday in the final preseason match, but he seemed to be okay. People saw him. in the clubhouse talking with fans after the match. Coventry sat second behind Leeds by a fair amount, to be fair, but in XG created last season. I've been a bit critical of their play style where they're very cross heavy, but it did tend to work out last season. Now, the looming issue is probably the center back and the striker. If one of the three strikers on the roster can step up, and there's going to be no issues there, and you would expect before the transfer window closes, another center back will be brought in. I'm not sure who. You just want to let Frank Lampard work his magic and go from there, which is why I have them in 4th place. I could see them pushing a bit further up with 1 or 2 more signings, maybe a midfielder, but I think within the playoffs is a safe bet for Coventry City. Now, in 3rd place, despite the potential point deductions looming, I don't think it'll matter. We are going to go with Leicester City. And I think people tend to forget how good of a team Leicester City are based on their failures in the Premier League last season and, you know, the off-field issues with the point deductions ongoing. But really, if you look at their squad, it's very similar to the one that was really, really strong in the Championship 2 years ago. Maybe a bit weak at the striker position. The only striker on the roster that is a senior player is Patson Daka, and he hasn't always been the most clinical. Maybe they'll do some business there. You do also see a world where some of their players get poached, like Bilal El Khanous. You know, there's a ton of Premier League clubs going after him, but even if they do, maybe they'll go and they'll bring someone in. I know they are in deep waters with PSR right now, but if someone's willing to pay you 30-40 million for one of your players, you're probably going to take them up on that offer. So I see them comfortably getting into the playoffs. This 3rd place prediction is based on a 9-point deduction because I think they would honestly probably be right at the top if they weren't getting a point deduction. Marty Cifuentes has done some really good work in the Championship. I know he was let go by QPR, but he helped them escape relegation. They've got a really good keeper. I know that one of the transfers they made was Asmir Begovic. Is that a telltale sign that there are teams after Matt Hermansen? Probably, but I don't think anyone is going to be surprised by that if he does go. And again, they will get a pretty penny if he does. Really strong defense. You've got Wout Faes, who is proven. Then it's important to remember last season Sheffield United with a 2-point deduction were able to comfortably hit 3rd place. Say Leicester even went and they got 10 points deducted, they still would have been in 3rd place. And the threshold to make the playoffs last season was the lowest it's been in a while. I think that they will make it up to 3rd. But I do want to add the league is a lot stronger this year. Obviously, 2 powerhouses coming up and just general teams that have consolidated are really all going for it this year. But I still see Leicester City having an easy time this year and making it into the playoffs. And hey, Leicester versus Birmingham City in the first leg of the playoffs would be a cracking matchup. In 2nd place, not much of a surprise here. General consensus pick is Southampton. And boy, oh boy, these dudes are going to score a lot of goals this season. I could see them scoring 90 goals this season. Will Still, multiple positive track records as a manager. This has to be the best strike force in the league. You don't even know who's going to start on opening day. Armstrong, Ross Stewart, Cameron Archer, Damian Downs, the American, who was brought in for a hefty fee. They are going to score a lot of goals. On top of that, they have players who can create. Mateus Fernandez, Tyler Dibbling. Tyler Dibbling has a huge price tag on him. Obviously, we don't go off of this, but FootMob predicts 34.5 mil. A lot of teams have been going in for him, but Southampton have set the price tag for him very high, which is valid. To be fair, they definitely don't want to let him go at the ripe age of 19 years old. That price could genuinely double depending on how things go this season. If he does stay, he's going to torch the league. He's got reliable players to provide services to. You could definitely see him getting a ton of goals and assists this year. Defensively, they just lost Ramsdale on loan to Newcastle. I think we all saw that one coming. Kyle Walker-Peters left on a free. He was definitely a big part of their championship run 2 years ago, but I think they will do a good job replacing him. They still have some really good players on their squad. They also brought in Joshua Kwarcy, who's just this massive German center back who's probably going to be a really strong player for them. And then don't forget, you got the likes of Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who has tons of experience even at his young age. Really not too much to debate here. You don't see their poor season really lagging down and affecting them. They seem like they all have good heads on their shoulders. So Southampton 2nd, and that puts Ipswich at number 1. I'm just going to come out and say it right here. I don't want to face Ipswich. They have such a good squad. It's so deep, albeit there are a couple players that could be leaving. So many teams have been in for Amari Hutchinson. There he is. His release clause was not activated accidentally by Brentford after the departure of Brian Mbeumo. There hasn't been much movement on that. Nathan Broadhead is potentially on his way out. After listening to the way Benjamin Bloom spoke about him, he's one of those players that was a huge role in their surge up to the Premier League. And It's just one of those scenarios where if you get an offer like that where they're going to pay several million more for a 27-year-old than what he probably is worth, despite him being a very quality player, you sort of have no choice but to say yes to it. He's Welsh. Wrexham like the storyline players. He's probably going to go. But do not mistake that for weakness, because they've still got George Hurst. They still got Jack Clark. They still got Sammy Smoddix. I think we all remember what Sammy Smoddix did for Blackburn a couple years back. Insane. Admittedly so, I did not watch the championship at this time. I'm just an informed American. Midfield-wise, their biggest signing was Azor Matasiwa. They are working on getting Hayden Hackney in from Middlesbrough, but he actually just rejected them, so I think at the moment that is stalled. That could change. Maybe they have to up their price. If he rejected, maybe that just means he's going to stay. We'll see. But they still got Jack Taylor. Maybe one or two more players needs to be brought in to fill the void of Sam Morsey. I don't deny that Azor Matasiwa can do it himself, but they probably just need a little bit more depth there. I mean, they've even just strengthened their defense this offseason. They brought in Ashley Young, little loan Cendric Kipre as well. You just figure this is going to be their year. They have one of the best managers in the championship, Kieran McKenna, who could have went to literally any club he wanted in the past couple years. It just feels like a project that maybe they needed to go up, go down, get those parachute payments, and then just rebuild themselves to get to that level where then they can go up and people say, you know what, this team is gonna be the Brighton, the Brentford of the past 5-10 years, the Bournemouth, where they can stay up and they can consolidate themselves in the Premier League and they can slowly rise up the table. Oh brother, that was a mouthful. I'm really sorry you guys missed out on the middle of the table. You really missed a lot of strong insight, but that's going to be the end. Please let me know what you agree and what you disagree with, because obviously no one's going to agree with all of it. Maybe parts of it, but not all of it. If you made it to the end, thanks so much. Please just double check if you've subscribed to the channel or not. We just hit 300 today, which is awesome. Thank you all so much. We're going to keep growing, especially with the championship season starting very soon. You might even be watching this when the season started to see how accurate my predictions were, because I'm a god. But yeah, like the video if you appreciated what we talked about today. Drop a comment, and yeah, follow my socials. Thanks a lot. Really excited for this season, and peace.